Oh. Yay! Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, it's Friday. And it's actually 5 o'clock where Leslie is. Let us know that you can see us, everyone. We are super excited to be here with Judi Keenholtz today. We've got a couple of updates before we dig into a conversation with our industry icon of the hour. And I don't even know where to begin. There's so much happening inside the WomanUP community. So I have some notes. I'll drop all sorts of things in the comments underneath, but specifically, I want to let you know that if you missed last week's announcement, we have shown everyone where the event is going to be. We have literally, ladies and gentlemen, we are having WomanUP World created on our own private virtual island. We are going to be going through this conference in avatars. We are going to be able to have one-on-one conversations on the beach, in the trees, at the lighthouse. We're going to have rooftop socials and dance parties. We're going to have beach yoga and meditation. It is going to be the event of 2020. And so we really, really don't want you to miss out on it. If you haven't had a chance to pop over to the website, go to IamWomanUp.com. And in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see something that says virtual event. Click that and look at all of the cool information. We've got videos, we've got images of what the virtual world looks like. You can get your ticket if you haven't got your ticket. And if you have already bought your ticket and you're thinking, what else, Deborah? The swag shop is open. We redesigned a collector's edition, if you will, of WomanUP 2020 virtual experience swag. We've got a couple different options for t-shirts. We've got baseball caps. We've got a journal in there. We've got an awesome virtual experience mug and all of the things that you need from the waist up to attend the conference and take your selfies and do all the fun things that you're going to do. So head on over to IamWomanUp.com, check out the virtual event page, head on over to the swag shop and spend some dollars. Get yourself something fun to attend the conference in. Even though we're not going to be together, who says we can't be representing the WomanUP swag, right, Leslie? So we have an economic update from Leslie next. And then, as I mentioned, we have a special guest with us today. So if you know Judi and you already have questions for her, please be sure to drop them in the comments and I will check them out as Leslie goes. So I will hand the mic over to you, Leslie, and can't wait to hear what you have to share with us today.
Thank you, Deborah. And it's so good to see everybody. And when I got my email and I saw Judi was going to be our guest today, I got so excited because she's just one of my all-time favorite people and style icons, right? She would show up at these meetings and I would think, I really want that, because she just always looked so great and was just a no-nonsense, incredible person. So
thank you.
I mean, really, Judi. And
I always wanted to look like you, so there we go.
Wow. So I'll say a few things about the economy. Obviously, in the last couple of weeks, things have gotten a lot more uncertain going forward. I know last week we talked about the June data that had come out, and there was this unprecedented, over 42% increase in home sales in California on a month-to-month basis, and we had the highest statewide median home price we've ever recorded. We were down year over year in every price category except the 2 million and above category, which also had the strongest price appreciation. So part of it was that, but really every price category had price appreciation. So I feel like my entire career has been spent talking about the lack of housing supply, except for those few years after the Great Recession, right? When we had short sale conferences and it was the once in a generation opportunity to buy affordable housing in California. But other than that, we've always had, an excess demand for housing. And I look at active listings today, they're off over 40% compared to a year ago. And it's kind of like, what's that about? And I think there is a pandemic factor to that, right? That on the sell side, this whole situation has created uncertainty. What do you do when you're uncertain? You put your plans on hold. I also think that the work from home, work from anywhere environment has almost created too many options. You know, people are thinking, wow, like I could live in Lake Tahoe, or I could live in, Texas or whatever, and that may be part of it. But clearly we've got the demand side hot, ready to go, looking at historic low rates, under 3% last week. And the sell side a little bit more hesitant. So that's our issue here. I will also warn you that next Tuesday we will see the GDP number for the second quarter. This will be a really ugly number. We had a 5% drop in the first quarter. We're expecting 30 to 40, 35% drop in the second quarter. So be prepared for that. We're going to get through it, but it's going to, looking in the rear view mirror is a little not for the faint of heart right now. So with that, I think it's going to be much more fun to talk to Judi than it is to talk about the economy. So let's move on, Deborah.
I love it. Well, and we'll be able to talk about that on Wednesday next week, right, Leslie? So you'll be able to quell our fears and help us fan ourselves back into
yes, Deborah. That's what we'll do.
Awesome. All right. So let me share a little bit with you about Judi. Now, Judi has been a champion of WomanUP since the very first whispers of what we wanted to do with this. And she has shared her wisdom from stage. She has been an amazing mentor to many women inside the real estate industry. And she has a very special relationship with Keisha Toller, she was connected to the first round of mentor programs. We actually had them on stage talking about how they work together as a mentor and mentee. So she has been here with us, linking arms with us and helping us for years now with the WomanUP movement. But Judi has a very extensive and varied resume as a top level executive in our industry. Her expertise in starting, building, and operating successful companies in all related markets has resulted in long-term shareholder returns. Hey, we like that. Show me the money. And increased company value. She is consistently committed to creating among her colleagues an environment of trust and respect and a passion to innovate and learn. We can all attest to that. So she has an amazing portfolio of companies she's worked to build and run. Empire Realty Associates was in 2002. They're actually now called EC 2002.
I remember Empire. Oh my God.
It's a very fancy name.
I remember it too, really well.
She was the president, the CEO, the CFO, and chairman of the board. She's also been at SOMA Living. She's been at Pacific Union Residential Brokerage of Contra Costa. She was a senior VP at Coldwell Banker. I mean, hello, this resume is outstanding. I love this paragraph inside her bio. In recognition of her intuition, creativity, and skill in negotiating corporate contracts, startups, mergers and acquisitions, her responsibility as a fiduciary, her role as a strategic advisor to independents and originator of the Artesian Group, she has been honored with the Woman of Distinction Award by the East Bay Business Times. She was also named Women Entrepreneur of the Year by the Women's Initiative. She's a graduate of New York University and Queens College, where she was named to the Dean's List. Of course, she was named to the Dean's List and received the Founders Day Award for Academic Excellence. She's married and resides in Orinda, California, and in Klein Village, Nevada. I can't wait to hear more about that. She enjoys traveling, reading, hiking, and the performing arts. She continues to look to the future, contributing to the growth and prosperity of new leaders in this dynamic marketplace. Woo! Welcome, Judi.
Oh, goodness.
We
And I'm
love you,
only
Judy.
21. I'm only 21. I don't know how I did all that.
You've been going backwards.
I mean, it gives me chills thinking of all the amazing things
Oh,
that you've done. And every time I am in your presence, I echo what Leslie's saying. It's just, I feel loved and listened to, and that you are such a servant-hearted leader that you can feel it in the room. So
thank you.
thank you for being here. How are
Thank you.
you?
I am doing great. It's been different, that's for sure. I think that, over the past couple of months, what I focused on is my own health. And what I mean by that is mental health and physical health, because I'm a very positive force in my family and with my associates. And in order to do that, I've got to really keep myself in the best condition that I can on every level. It's my responsibility. And health is a big part of everything we do. I mean, we talk a lot about food, we talk a lot about working out, we talk about our mental acuity and reading and staying alive with our collaborators, with our friends. But I've also been expanding my business, which is very exciting. And my focus has always been on women's leadership. And I've been involved in, mentoring and coaching, as you mentioned, Deborah. I've worked at Santa Clara University as an advisor and a consultant in their Executive Women's Board Readiness Program, which has been very exciting for me. And I've recently reached out to a company in New York that I had a contact with who's in a completely different industry. They're in the staffing business. And what was so great about that and a terrific eye opener for me is you realize that the connectivity of different industries in the sales arena, and particularly sales and service, are so similar. And they're facing the issues of brick and mortar, about how to deal with collaboration of your sales associates, how to keep your managers in the right place, how to make good decisions for the future. So that has been a key learning for me in moving forward of the similarities in our industries. And it's one of the things that I'm going to mention that we really need to, that I recommend that people focus on. Look outside of where you are.
Now, that kind of reminds me of our strategic planning.
Oh, wow.
I go out and come back in.
I'm not sure what that is.
I don't know either.
Oh,
Is
it's
it
better
okay
now.
now?
I
Yeah.
don't
Okay.
hear
Ooh.
I don't hear anything. You're good.
Okay, good. No,
Yeah.
so I was going to say I loved hearing that, and it's one of the things in our strategic planning, um, efforts at CAR is always kind of like, let's get out of our industry and see what's happening
Right.
in other places and bring some of those practices back in. So I really loved hearing that. And do you have any advice in terms of health and well-being? Are you, meditating or keto diet or, any
You
like
know, I live
specific
yeah,
things?
I live a really balanced life. I eat well, I work out, I walk, I work on my head, I work on my body, I work on my relationships. I've been that way all my life. So, I'm not into a fad diet. I don't do that. I wear the same size now that I've worn forever. I know that makes people crazy, but it's true. But I think it's a matter of a conscious effort about living a healthy life. And no matter what the medical world has to say right now, that is a key ingredient for all of us about staying healthy in today's world. Even if without the virus, it's staying healthy in today's world.
Jenny, how did you get out to California? You grew up in New York City?
I grew up in New York, and through a variety of different situations, I can just tell you that I was an educator, and my husband and I lived in New York. And I said, I got to get out of here. I hate these winters. It was just dreadful. And we put out these resumes all over the country and he was a teacher at the time too. Meanwhile, both of us have been in business forever, but in our young years, that's what we did. And we had resumes out all over the place and mostly in warm states. And our deal was whoever got a job first, that's where we were going to move. So as we came back through our travels, we walked into our house and the phone was ringing, and it was for me, and it was in Solano County. And I got a job in their special projects unit writing grants for the state of California, and also teaching physically handicapped kids. So that was my career. And, I'm so fiercely independent. I'm an entrepreneur that I said, I'm a passionate person about whatever I do. I'm going to start in business and went into the real estate industry. And that's my story.
Wow, that's awesome.
But I've always followed my dreams. It's who I am.
And you've stayed in the Bay Area since.
Yes, we've lived in Orinda for 35 years, something like that, ridiculous. And we love it. We have a house in Incline Village, and that is my respite. Going up there and being on the lake and looking at water and smelling the pine trees, I mean, it can really get you. So I'm hooked, and that keeps me healthy as well. And I do my best work there too. I really do.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
So speaking of work, what are some of the big challenges that you see for leaders in this environment that we're all facing right now?
I kind of don't know where to start on this except to think about, how the leadership model has really evolved today. And it's no longer about you or the executive team. It's really about everybody in your company. And I've always been a proponent of developing your culture. Again, not as a cost item, but as a important integral part of your company speak and collaboration. And more now than ever, we have to reach out to everybody in our organization and listen to them and hear what they have to say and come up with some great ideas for the future, because otherwise you can get stuck in, a woe is me kind of environment. Nobody wants to be that way.
No.
And certainly we've had challenges, but, excuse me, we're in a perfect industry for hope. We still represent the American dream, and I believe in it. And, it's a great place to be.
I love that what you said about leadership versus culture, kind of,
Yeah.
that it's not just kind of the guy on the white horse leading everyone through, but it's
Yeah.
like all of us together in this
Yeah.
environment that we create and feed ourselves, right? Organically. I love that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I loved we're in a perfect industry for hope. What a
Isn't that
beautiful
true? Yeah.
that is so beautiful, Judy.
Thank you.
Like that needs to be on t-shirts and mugs.
Uh-oh. Swag
Because
shop.
we are. Yeah, swag shop. Maybe that's the next quote. I think even over the last few weeks, Leslie's economic updates, there's been this layer of hope
Mhm.
in the real estate industry. And I think that sometimes we get so mired in the minutia and the details of things that we do forget
Yeah.
that this industry, we are blessed to be in it. And we are a part of helping people's dreams come true.
When we speak about people's dreams coming true, we're speaking about not just our consumer and the public, but our internal organization and their dreams coming true.
Yeah.
So, it's a focus for sure.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. So I know that you always have these beautiful words of wisdom that roll and flow through you. So
She's one of these people that you just want to have a little notepad, so
Yes.
rewind, Judy, say that again. Like, so
Now you got a chance to do that.
Yes, exactly. Now we can.
Exactly.
So I'm assuming, and from our conversation in the green room and what we're talking about today, that you have a lot of people who you serve and mentor and advise. So what are some of the key elements and resources that you find yourself sharing a lot with those people?
I'm probably going to bring in two things in here. One is in every situation where you're a leader, you have to know yourself. And you have to also be authentic and vulnerable. And I really mean that. I think we're in an era right now of high emotionality. And I think that we as leaders really have to listen to people in a way that we haven't before and be authentic. Just it's okay to make a mistake. So I think I've left the fear of being wrong away from me right now, which is a good learning thing. And I'm not afraid to make mistakes, and I'm not afraid to be vulnerable, and I'm not afraid to correct. What I am afraid of is not correcting, but I am not afraid to correct. And I consider that a sign of strength. So in working with individuals that I work with, as I mentioned before, I like to look outside the industries to learn what other people are doing and then to share those events. But more than anything, I try to listen and collaborate. And I was telling Deborah before we started that there's this wonderful book that I really recommend for people, and it's called The Servant Leadership. And it happens to be by James Hunter, but there's a lot of books on this subject. And what it talks about is that as leaders, we're really leading people to self-actualization. And that sometimes they're just kind of interested in, food, water, and shelter, and we got to move beyond that. So as a leader, I think we have to think for what's important, really, not just in terms of wants, but in terms of needs. And I always think about that.
I love that.
And
Well,
I share information openly. I really do. And I'm a constant reader myself, and I think that's something I bring to the table.
absolutely. Well, and when you mentioned about inside the book, it talks about we need to get past the, food, was it food, water, shelter that you
Yeah,
mentioned? I do a lot of work with people around their core values. And
right,
when you look at the Barrett value system, right,
right,
he really has it planned out like a
right.
and that those that you're talking about, those are the fundamental things that we need. That actually doesn't,
Exactly.
we're not, if we're
Right,
not escalating and elevating and
right.
actualizing, it doesn't mean we don't need food, shelter, finances, but it's when we can get to that place where we can give back, where we're focused on future generations as opposed to, paying the bill.
Right.
That's when we can actually open up and invest in our communities. So I think that's so beautiful. I can't wait to read that.
It's a good book.
Yeah.
So, Judy, I had a question about communication because it's something that I always think a lot about. I'm really focused on active listening and hearing what people have to say. And you kind of made a comment about just how emotional the world is today. And I think part of that is people are kind of unglued, unhinged, and not listening. And I
Right.
wonder if you have any insights on that, how to foster really healthy communication.
Well, again, we go back to the core values and the culture of your company. And if you're already running a company or a business, you already have, hopefully you have your culture of how your team is working together, and you have some values that we all share that we can not rest on, but lean on, lean close to it at times like this. And I always like to start with collaboration and appreciation and encouragement, and some of that is done through social activities. So having fun is critical. It just is so important right now to laugh and share funny stories and just be real. So social events online, they work. You only have to be dressed from the waist up. It all works. Uh, and you can get ideas can start bubbling like that. And I think what excites people in any communication is the fact that they would have a path of something new and exciting. And ideas are not created alone. They really come from many. So that in these social environments where people are feeling comfortable with one another, creativity comes up. And if you look for it and try to bottle it, you can find new opportunities for your company that are going to make people excited about being there and excited about the industry. So have fun.
I love that. We need more of that. I need to spend more time trying to do that virtually,
Well, it can be done. I mean, I've had companies that I'm working with who dress up in costume online, and they all act out different characters and they get silly and it works. And from that, they get some good collaboration. It's not just all about a joke.
Right. Right.
That's so good. I think that people are becoming more creative than it's simply being about a booze hour,
Right,
right? Where everyone's
right,
drinking. Like they are doing some fun things.
right,
I know that our dear friend Bernice Ross, who hosted her Awesome Females event earlier this month, we had our social hour. Everyone wore fun hats
right,
because you can see a hat.
right,
Normally it's pajamas, but well, what are you going to do, right? And so being creative and fun is important. And for those of you who want to have fun, like the virtual experience that WomanUP is putting together is going to be fun because you get to dress an avatar and you can hang out with your friends, and it's a different way to do things. So really think about how you can pepper that into your week. It is so key. I love that, Judi, so much. And I loved what you were saying earlier about how leadership is shifting, it's morphing, it's changing, right?
yeah,
That we've evolved from it being about figureheads at the top of an organization, and,
Right.
and really kind of reaching down and embracing the entire
Let's
organization.
face it, part of that is having more women involved. Women are
Oh my
exactly.
less
gosh,
hierarchical.
exactly.
Because we're not
Women are
afraid.
inclusive.
Yeah, we're not afraid to share. It
No,
works.
well, we
No.
Yeah.
think it's all better when you share,
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Well, I've been doing a lot of reading on the masculine and feminine energies that we all carry, and how for so long we've kind of miscategorized those. And a lot of the things that you're talking about today are really around that feminine energy, right? Collection, collaborating, connecting, looking for the opportunities to weave your communities together. And right now we know that there's a lot of people who are struggling, and they're trying to figure out what their next new normal is, and that sometimes changes from day to day. So how are you helping those people who are in your world as they're kind of on the corona coaster, as what people are starting to call it now, right? The corona coaster.
Oh my
Jeez.
goodness. Okay, so my first thought is, as a company leader, now is a time for sure to check in with your bankers and with your accountants and to understand your numbers. And if anything, I find that oftentimes many of us who run companies are really not knowledgeable about the inner mechanisms of their numbers and how they work. So, if that's not your strong area, I really recommend that you take some classes in it, or start getting information about how to read your P&L, how to do forecasts, how to do a reporting system that really makes sense to you, and get help on it if you don't know how to do it. But by golly, you got to do it. You absolutely have to. And I also think that you know you have to make good financial decisions, that's for sure. If business is tough, you know that you have to make good financial decisions, but please don't make them so that you cut off your opportunity for growth. So be really careful, because if you cut off your opportunity for growth, you will falter. So it's a balancing act, and that's where getting consultants, other people from different industries, your own peer groups or whatever, to just chat this through. For me, it's about, okay, how do you reduce expenses and keep growth in mind? And that's a big challenge that we have. That is a real challenge, and we can't overlook it, and we definitely can't ignore it. Um, the the other thing that I wanted to mention was that as a salesperson today, in today's world, you get so many rejections, in which we always have. We've always had rejections in our business, but now with the industry, with the listings down as much as they are, and the multiple offers going on, buyers agents are just so stressed out because they are counseling clients who have to pay a couple of $100,000 more, at least in my area, than any of the comps are showing. So it's a challenge. So what do you do, and how do you help people who are in this situation and they are getting rejected, and they're great agents and they're giving good counsel to their clients? What advice do you give to them? And I think everybody has a different trigger. So I know that some people, if they have a rejection, they get back in the game and they're gung ho and something great happens. I love that.
Yeah.
Some people go to the beach and sit by the water for a day and then come back refreshed. But whatever your trigger is, you have to acknowledge it, and we have to support it as leaders.
Oh, that's so good. And I think that I love how you're reminding all of us that everyone isn't the same.
No.
And that is, again, another reason why we need to tap into connecting with our people one-on-one. Who are you serving in your world? And it doesn't take much, right? It
No.
can be a
No.
quick text. How you doing today? I mean, I kind of go through a list, right? I have a list of dearests who are close to me. And some weeks they're just like, hey, love you. You know, I'm good. But other weeks I get like 3 or 4 huge texts back. And it's like, okay, well, they need the love this week. Right?
You have to be even more intentional when
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
virtual, because you really can have a default, which is I'm isolated and I'm not interacting, with people. So I love your idea, Deborah, of having a list, and really keeping the people that, like you said, Judy, you nurture your mind, you nurture your body, you nurture your relationships, and you just have to be intentional, or the days go by, they turn into weeks, and then here you are, you've kind of lost touch with people.
Yes.
So, we have to be bold and we have to be agile
Yes.
and we have to communicate more than ever before. And more than that, we have to be okay with mistakes that people make, and it shouldn't stymie them from making good decisions. So I like to empower people to make decisions and to make actions. And if they're wrong, they'll get it right the next time. That's
Right.
all.
I think that's so good. So we do have a question or two in the comments, Judy. This first one is from Sabrina Brown.
Hello, Sabrina.
Hi,
Yeah,
Sabrina.
Sabrina. Hey, Sabrina. She's one of our 2020 wave makers. Thank you so much for saying yes. She asks, how do you help your team members stay positive and productive right now?
Well, again, as I mentioned, I think you got to talk to them and do your active listening. I don't know, I'm assuming that they're facing the same issues that we just talked about, particularly if they're buyer's agents. It's a tough world out there. So you can share stories, but at the end of the sharing stories and at the end of the active listening, there has to be a positive path that they can be on. So there has to be something that from my perspective anyway, there has to be an action plan that happens that's positive and gets you out of the negative state for sure. And I think people can find their own. I'm not in the telling business. I'm about the inquiring business. So I think if you listen enough, you're going to find that they have the answers themselves. They just need confirmation that they're doing the right thing.
That's so good. Well, and you mentioned this earlier uh, in a couple of your other answers, but I think that as we have such a resource in the community of mentors, and so whether your struggle is financial, like there are mentors who can help you understand how to, for instance, read a P&L,
Right.
right? Who can help you, who can look at it without judgment, right? Without competition, and can help you figure out how to do that. Because the reality is a lot of people open brokerages and they've never learned to do that. They have, they've
I
got
know.
gumption
I
and
know
grit.
that's why I have a consulting job.
Right. Well, and so tap into those resources, and part of those resources might be from a leadership perspective, is when you see the same thing with your staff or your agents and they're going through the same thing, maybe it's time to find them a mentor, right? That maybe it isn't going to be you all the time as their broker or their leader, right? It
It's a
doesn't
great
have to
point.
be.
Absolutely. So I've always worked on a team. I'm a process person. I love to work with teams. I always get so excited about good things that happen, but I'm also very aware of the fact that these consultants that we have are very much a part of our culture and part of our company, even though they might not be our employees or whatever. They're part of what makes it work. My vendor is the same way, all the same.
Oh, I love that. So good. So
I,
good.
may I add something else in here?
Of
I
course.
think that, when we speak about the rules, the rules of managing or the rules of running a company, I love those words because you make a rule and then tomorrow there's another rule. So I think that if anything, if in leading a group, whether it's your team or whether it's your company, be very honest about what your strengths are and what you can bring to them, and then bring out what theirs are. So, you don't want them to look at you, as I said before, as the almighty. They are a part of this process. And through their strength, whatever you're doing is going to get better.
Judy, I wanted to ask you a question about how things looked 12 years ago in the Great Recession compared to how they look now, because you've really been through, as I have, this arc in the
Right,
industry with consolidation and national companies and
right.
larger regional independents. And I mean, it's just been a really wild ride. And I'm just wondering how you kind of look back on what happened then and kind of what we're going through now in terms of any words of advice or wisdom.
The people might be different and the situation might be different, but I would probably apply all of these principles that I talked about today to whatever the challenges are. You got to be on top of your books. You got to know your finances. You got to know where your money's come from. You got to have a banker and a CPA as part of your team, and an attorney and other industry leaders as part of your group. In strategic alliances, the best way you set it up. You have to deal with the emotions of your salespeople and your consumers and your staff. There are many companies right now that had to cut back on staff and cut back on, salaries and all kinds of things. And those are not necessarily fun things to discuss. But I think that if you tell the truth and you know what the end game is and you're all on the same page, you got to work it through. And as I mentioned before, I think that through the bad times, I've learned more about triggers. And I've learned that, no matter whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market or mortgage rates are high or mortgage rates are low, there's a way of working through it. And I've always said if you have good people working for you, you're going to be able to figure it out. And when I say good people, what I mean is every company has its own culture, as we know, and the people that might be good in my culture might not fit into yours. But if you have a team and you know how to collaborate and you trust each other because you listen to each other and you empower each other, you're going to figure it out.
Love that.
Let's hope.
Hope.
What was your happiest time in the industry?
I absolutely love starting companies. I love the excitement of having the whole world ahead of you and an empty page. I love that.
Are
And
you
I
a
also
morning person?
a little bit more so lately, but this is one other point that I want to make too. I love helping other people develop. I love being a leader. I love it because I've left the place. People used to say to me all the time, "How do you feel about your salespeople making more money than you?" And I would say, "Great. I want them to. I'm happy in what they're doing, and I get pleasure out of the fact that maybe I had a thumbprint on that one."
Mhm.
I love that. I love that.
Oh, that's so good. Well, and well, we all can attest to that, right? Because we're here listening to you, and you've touched so many of the lives of the women inside the WomanUP community, including Leslie and myself. I have a more personal question. I want to know what is on that red wall in that room.
Oh, okay. So let me figure out if I can do this, and I'll tell you the story about this. So I don't want to unplug myself here. Oh, let's see.
There we
So
go. Yes, that's good.
I'm going to get.
Gorgeous painting.
Oh,
So this is actually not a painting. This is a quilt.
Oh my goodness.
right.
Yes, this is a quilt that one of my people it was actually at the startup. It was my old SOMA days. She was trainer, marketing, everything, and then we moved into Empire, and she became the number one staff person. And as a hobby, she was an artist. So what she did on this is she did an acrylic, and then she quilted over it. And I said, I got to have this. I
It's
just have to.
gorgeous.
So you know what? When I have things in my house, and the other side is my family stuff,
Yes, and the
my
art at the
right,
bottom.
right. So you have things in your work environment, and this is probably part of the whole thing. You have to have a happy place, right?
Yeah.
And you have to have a place that feels good for you. So if your home office or the place you're doing virtual doesn't feel right to you, I would say fix it.
Yeah.
Now, declutter, fix it.
Yes. Amen to that. And it's so funny because I have this lemongrass paint on my walls here. And I can't tell you how many times people are like, oh my gosh, it just feels so fun and exciting and lively in there. I said, exactly. It needs to, because when you're doing these things all day, when you're sitting and having conversations, I also have a desk that converts to a standing desk. So
I
I
need
can
that. That's
so I can
good.
stand here
Yeah.
and, I still have the same background. But that's such great advice. Have these little elements. I love your granddaughter's art behind you there. You've got these beautiful elements that surround you. And I think that that's excellent words of wisdom for everyone. It's like, what does your space look like? Does it bring you joy or not? And if we are in a space that does, then we're interacting from a place of joy.
Particularly if you're a visual person.
Yeah.
There are people that don't have anything, they don't care about that, but I bet you that if they made it nice, they would care about it.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. So as we get ready to close, which is, I know I speak for Leslie too, this is our least favorite part.
Oh, what did I do now?
Because we just want to keep talking. Oh no, just the end of the show has come.
Okay.
And we want to honor your time because we are so blessed that you joined us. Is there any last word or two that you want to sprinkle over the community before we say goodbye?
So I am an eternally optimistic and positive person, and I know what we're going through right now is tough, but I know it's going to pass. And I think that our industry is one that will prevail over time for sure in one way or another. There'll be buyer's markets, there'll be seller's markets, there'll be low interest rates, there'll be, it'll be a good time, it'll be a bad time, but this is a great business to be in. I wouldn't have traded it for the world. And I really recommend that if you are, concerned and you are not finding your way, then reach out. There are so many people around there, including myself, who would love to be able to jump in and help you.
Beautiful.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Judi. And I
It
know
was fun.
I'm
So
seeing
good to
the
see
conversations in the comments in there saying your energy is just so incredibly inspiring. And when I will say when Leslie asked you the question about the things that you love and what you love most, you were beaming. I mean, you
I
could
don't know what I said. I
feel
don't
it was like
remember.
sunshine was coming from your face.
You said
And
you like starting companies and you
Oh, I
like
yes,
do.
helping
yes, yes,
people.
you
It
I
like
was
do.
beautiful.
it was so great. It was so wonderful. And I know we all three of us wish everyone who is watching the same thing, right? That when they are asked that question, that they feel that way when they answer.
And if you don't, then find something that does.
Right.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
yes, absolutely. Well, ladies and
Thank you.
gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you, Judi? If they want to have a chit chat with you, if they want to hire you as a consultant, what does that look like? How do they get you?
So how do I do this? Do I just say it?
You can
Yep.
say it, and then we'll put it in the blog post so that people can
Okay.
connect with you.
So I guess I'll give you my easy email to get to. It's J Keenholtz, KEENHOLTZ @gmail.com. And
That
my
is easy peasy.
and my phone, if you want to call me, is 925-998-6800. And if you have any questions that you want to ask me, please feel free. I would be glad to help you.
Oh,
You're the
thank you.
best.
So wonderful. Oh my
Thank
goodness.
you.
Well, for those of you who joined us live, thank you for your questions and your comments. I know that Leslie and I and Judi will definitely check in and answer anything that we didn't get to today on the live show.
Right.
If you're here for the replay, feel free to still ask questions. We'll make sure to get those to Judi so that
Great.
she can help you and get connected to you. Again, for those of you who have not registered for the virtual event, September 1, 2, 3, get on it. Head on over to IamWomanUp.com. Check out the virtual location, watch the videos, see what it's going to be like. If you're apprehensive at all about what that word avatar is, go over there and see it. Judi said you should have more fun in your life, and this is definitely more fun. I mean, really, dressing up your avatar and going to a conference on a private island at WomanUp World sounds pretty darn fun to me. So get going. IamWomanUp.com. If you've got questions about it, you know where to find us. Until we see you next Wednesday, have a wonderful, blessed weekend, everyone. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.